This is a E-Revo brushless system. It's been converted to brushless. I'm running the 54 tooth gear. I always get mixed up in the name of these gears. This gear right here, I don't think you can focus, but that's a 54 tooth, this big one. To put that in on this car, I had to cut this motor adjuster in. I had to grind it a little bit. They also sell this plate for the conversion, which would mean that you wouldn't have to do that cut, that modification. The two things I want to point out, the main things I want to point out is what I did with the battery tray here. As you can see, there's no plastic up here on the top part. I cut that out. Cutting that out does not compromise the integrity of the frame, the strength, because there's a lot of plastic in here. It goes all the way around, actually, in the center of the E-Revo. Also, because I cut the plastic out of both these, I cut it all along here and along here. This is my on and off switch. This is foam glued to the battery adjuster here. This side's the same way. And I can run 3 cells now. I can run a 3-cell battery pack, the big fat ones, on each side. I also raised the center, the transmission actually. I was going to say center diff, but it's transmission. I raised it up about 1/4 of an inch and cut out some of the plastic up here so the drive shaft would not rub. You can see the drive shaft. I cut that out, that much of this plastic out there. And I don't recall if I cut any on the front. Yeah, I did. Cut a little bit up front, up here. Ordinarily you can't see the drive shaft from there. But obviously the car was all apart to do this. It was very simple actually. These cars are very easy to work on. This is a battery tray here off of a Losi 8. This is the battery tray. I cut it. There's the part where it screws in. This actually strengthens the E-Revo. I saw a video of someone busting the rear end off of their E-Revo because they did like a huge 40-foot jump and this whole back broke off. It broke forward. If you put this tray like this, it would actually reinforce that. I believe this is the front part of the battery tray. If you buy the battery tray for a Losi 8 electric conversion, that's the Losi 8.1, not the Losi 2.0. That's my old car. I no longer run it. I just got burnt out on that one. I got the Ofna Hyper 9E there. Very happy with that. If you want an 8-scale car and an electric, that's the one to get. Ofna Hyper 9E. No doubt in my mind. Definitely one to look into the design of how they made it. Especially with the center diff being pushed all the way to the back. So with this battery tray, basically it's screwed into the back here. It's screwed in right there. There's already a place to screw that directly in. It's already there. And the 2 rear shocks, there was 2 screws that went in here, and I just got longer screws and I used fuel tubing. I just did something custom here. This is just to help guide my wires. These are my wire guides. You don't have to do that. But obviously I did a lot of Dremel cutting with the battery tray. You can see there's still a space between the motor and the battery tray. I chose to leave some of the plastic here. But there's my receiver. That's the DSM-2 Spectrum. And this is the Mamba Max speed control. Can take 25 volts, which is basically a 6-cell. This car runs best with 2 3-cells. 2 2-cells, it just doesn't have the power it does with the 6-cell. My ultimate goal will be to run 2 6-cells, and I think it's called in parallel. I always get mixed up between parallel and series, but that would be where it doubles my runtime, not the voltage. So it would still be a 6-cell, but one really big 6-cell. So that'll eventually happen. The 3-cells, or I'm sorry, the 6-cells are very expensive, so I'm holding off on those. I believe that's it. But while we're at it, I'll show you my Ofna Hyper 9, just in case you're curious about that one. This is my Craftsman electric screwdriver. This is also a tool everyone should have. It's adjustable. I do all my work with this. It has a high and low setting. You can adjust it so it won't strip the screws out. And I got the Ofna, or Nitro House sells these. It has 4 sizes of aounds. If you have any questions about the any of these things, the E-Revo or the Ofna Hyper 9, just ask and I'll answer to the best of my ability. This one has the same system, but this is the 2650 motor, which is the buggy motor. There's my speed control I just put in. I ran the wire out of the side. I gotta set this down. I opened up the speed control, which I don't recommend doing actually, but there was no room for the wire to come out of the front, so I just put a little groove in the side and ran the wire out of the side, and I double-side sticky taped it to the frame, and I've run it like this before and had no problems. I've raced it like that. If you're curious about, I mean, just look at the way this is laid out. It's so clean. It's like motor. That's your center diff right there in the back, and the rear diff is in here. That's the center diff. Check out your drive shaft here. One solid piece of, I guess, aluminum going all the way to the front. 2650 motor. These are the wires. Look at those beefy wires. Those have the heat shrink on them, protecting them. I put this on. It's just to help guide the wires. There's a 3-cell limiter power 40C in there, but like I said on my last video, get the 50Cs. They charge at 32.1 amps. These don't. These charge at 5 amps. That's going to cut your charge time way down. That's a DSM-2 receiver. It's a Spectrum 2.4 GHz DSM-2 SR3100. And I'm running the servos I run in all my cars. I'm sorry, the steering servo is the digital DS1015. They're pretty low priced. I think they're like 60, 70. I've never had one go out on me. I have the longest bar on this. I don't know what this is called, but I have the longest one on that. What else? Anyway, the car is just awesome. I modified the battery tray on this one too. I cut it lower, and I cut this side off it so I can just slide the battery out when I undo the velcro. I had the battery forward with pads here. that allows the car to rotate in corners. It actually makes a difference. Great car. If we want to compare it to the Losi 1, you just see this is the Losi 8, the Losi 80. Just that center diff being in the middle and that angle of that drive shaft. I always wore this part out right here, and had a lot of trouble with these things coming, the drive shaft coming loose in the front. I don't run this car anymore. Anyway, have a good day. Bye.